Yeah. Here we go. Um, so this is a sort of abbreviated version of the information session that I do every month to introduce people to the Manufacturing Skills Initiative. But I wanted to hopefully address some of the questions that you might be asking yourselves as you're thinking about different career paths and different education pathways. So um, I hope that these questions and this approach will be useful to you, whether manufacturing is the path you take or not. I think this approach can be applied to a number of different things, but um, basically, when you're deciding whether manufacturing is the right career path, I, I will start with assessing your own skills and interests. Um, do you like to make things, fix things, take things apart? Do you like to work on cars, tinker with computers, wood shop, sewing, quilting? Um, in our case, many of the people who go into our manufacturing training programs, I would say very transferable skill paths and career paths for career changers are people who have worked on farms, people with automotive experience, computer experience, people who like to do craft work and hobbies, making things, people who are cooks. I think gamers we've found, people who like Dungeons and Dragons or computer games. Often that involves, following detailed sequences and things like that. So if you like those kinds of things, you might be attracted to manufacturing. You should ask yourself if you want an active job or a desk job. Um, Many, at least entry-level manufacturing jobs are active. There is certainly desk work in manufacturing also, but often that requires additional education. Um, and if you're thinking about an entry-level job, can you imagine starting out doing repetitive work in a noisy environment? Of course, that could also describe McDonald's just as well as a manufacturing place. So you have to think about what your range of options are as a high school student for work. Many students, consider service jobs because they're more easily available or visible. They tend to have part-time schedules, which works well for students. Um, but anyway, those are some of the things to think about as you're starting out. Um, Step two, I would say, is assess your needs and your goals. In terms of need and financial need, one question to ask yourself is, do you need to get a full-time job right away after you graduate from high school? For those people who do, manufacturing can be a good option. Or if you're just exploring the field, perhaps you'd prefer to get a summer temp job to try out different manufacturing kinds of work. And then you have to ask yourself, if you want to really learn a skilled trade, are you ready to invest the time to learn the skills that would help you really start a career, which is really different than just getting a job. It's really putting in the time and the training to get to be a skilled tradesperson or other kinds of skilled professions within manufacturing. And another question is, would you prefer a short, in terms of what your trajectory is coming out of high school? Some people are really college ready and excited about another 4 years or 2 years or 4 years of learning. Other people are feeling like they want a break from learning when they get out of high school. And so, you can ask yourself, would you prefer a short technical training to get right to work in an entry-level job, say as a machine operator, or are you ready for a longer educational pathway that would allow you to start a career at a higher level in a few years, perhaps as a maintenance mechanic, a programmer, or an engineer? And can you see yourself working and going to school at the same time? And can you manage the transportation that's required to do that? In our valley, we don't have a lot of public transportation, so getting to work and getting to school is a logistical trick, and it's a lot of hours. So again, all these things really relate to the resources you have, the support you have, and how you envision combining work and training as you move into adult life. If you have more resources, you can take more time for school and training and then go to work. If you need a job to pay the bills, then you have to think about how you blend training with work. And then finally, are you ready for training in college? Do you have a plan? Do you know what your financial resources and opportunities are? And do you have the preparation and support to be successful? And I think that's sort of a good check-in, regardless of what your path is, because I think what I see in my program is a lot of people who went to college without a plan, and the statistics are not that encouraging. When you look at what actually happens to people after they go to college, the completion rates are pretty shockingly low in this country. And my sense is that a lot of that could be improved with more planning and support on the front end for people going in, so that you have the motivation, the preparation, the resources, and the support to really be successful at whatever path you choose.
Andrew, do you have like latest stats on that completion rate?
Yes, I do.
Because I think that might be helpful for students to know.
Yeah, if you go to a community college, and 50% of all college-bound high school graduates go to community college. However, only about 30% of community college students actually attain a credential even after 8 years of effort. So we've got a lot of work to do to really raise our completion rates at the community college level. If you go to a public college, a state college or university like UMass or Fitchburg State, the completion rates are higher, but still could use a lot of improvement. They're about 57% nationally. And if you go to a private college, they're higher still, but still not super impressive. They're about 65%. So community college is about 1/3, private college is about 2/3 graduate within 6 years. It's real, given how expensive higher education is. It's really important to think about, how you're going to marshal your resources to really get where you want to go. And particularly if you're going to be depending on financial aid, things like Pell Grants, which you'll learn about in the admissions and financial aid process. If you're eligible for those, they're limited. You only have a certain amount of Pell eligibility before you tap that out. So you can take a few cracks at the apple, but if you're depending on Pell Grants to get through, you have to be pretty strategic about how you design your plan. So step 3, once you've thought about your skills and your interests, your needs and your goals, explore the field, learn about the field you're interested in this case, manufacturing. Talk to your family and friends, if you have any who work in manufacturing, to find out what kind of different jobs they do and what they're like. I find that's another real key to success in manufacturing, is people who have family members who have jobs that they like are real role models. And if your dad or your mom or your uncle or aunt is a skilled machinist, that's a skilled trade that people, and I think people benefit from folks like that who teach them things as well. So that becomes an important resource if you have it. You can research company websites, look at YouTubes. There are thousands of them that show you how to operate a mill or a lathe or all kinds of different equipment that will give you a real feel for how you make stuff with modern manufacturing equipment. And think about whether you want to work here in the Pioneer Valley or live in other places. A lot of people who go to community college tend to stay in the area. If you go to a four-year school, people tend to be a little more mobile, and might want to look at career opportunities nationally or even internationally. So I'm going to just give you some quick info about manufacturing right here in Franklin and Hampshire counties. There are 232 manufacturing businesses. Almost 7,000 people are employed in manufacturing. That's about 7% of all jobs in the two counties. If you go northward and just look at Franklin County, it's about 15% of all jobs in Franklin County. And if you go over to the North Quabbin region, Athol, Orange, manufacturing is about 20% of all employment, so much stronger. And again, the average weekly wage in manufacturing is higher than you'll find in other industries. And that's true for a couple of reasons. Service jobs, entry-level service jobs tend to be very low paying. You may have experienced some of that if you've worked at McDonald's or Home Depot or things like that. They tend to be part-time as well, which has its strengths and weaknesses. Can be good if you're a student, not so good if you're trying to raise a family. And the other advantage for manufacturing is that a lot of the jobs have a lot of overtime. So that's where you're working, you're earning time and a half after your 40 hours of work. So if you're willing to put the time in, that's how you can often make additional money and good wages, even with an entry-level job. What kind of jobs are in manufacturing? There are actually hundreds of different occupations. This is just a small sampling, but to give you a feel, at the entry level, at the front end on the production side, machine operator, assembler, that kind of thing. And shipping and receiving is on the warehouse end where you're getting the product out the door. Those, I would say, the entry-level jobs range from about minimum wage to $17 an hour. $28,000 is $13.50 an hour. That's the current minimum wage. If you go, many of these companies do internal training to move you up to a quality control position. And that starts at a little bit higher wage and moves up as you get into more complex kinds of testing and quality oversight. On the left side of the screen, you see what I call sort of the back office jobs. Production planning, purchasing, sales and marketing, those are some examples. And those typically require an associate's degree or a four-year degree to enter. And those are more of like the desk jobs. Those sales can be an active get out and meet your clients kind of job. And typically, I've talked to sales reps at different companies, and many of them start out on the shop floor because that's how you really get to know the product, is by making it. So that's one direction you can work your way up in. But those typically have a higher start. Folks qualifying for them have put more educational time in. At the top of the heap are engineers. Those are the folks who both design the products and the production processes that make the products, the machinery that puts things together. And you typically need at least 4 years or more of school to get to engineering. You have to be good at math. Calculus is kind of the entry threshold for engineering school. But if you have the motivation and the resources to stick with at least a 4-year degree, you can start out at least $50,000, often more, and go upward from there. So there's a lot of opportunities in engineering. The large picture in the center is of a CNC machine operator. CNC stands for computer numerical control, which is what this woman is doing. She's controlling and programming the tooling inside that big box there to cut metal parts. And that's how modern machining is done. She's actually a graduate of one of our programs who's now in a pretty advanced position in her company. CNC positions, that's one of the trainings that we offer with Greenfield Community College. CNC operators typically start at around $15 an hour or more, and $15 an hour is about $30,000 a year as a full-time job. So I don't know if you all recognize any of these logos, but this is a kind of quick tour of some of the manufacturers right here in our region. And I've put these on here also to give you a sense of the different clusters that we have. We have companies that do electromechanical assembly, like Smith's Interconnect, which used to be called Militech up there in the corner. I guess you could sort of put Worthington Assembly in that cluster, sort of. They make circuit boards, and they're going to tell you a lot more about that. We have a plastics cluster with over a half a dozen plastics manufacturers that make both film and extruded plastic. SWM International makes specialty films. Pelican makes custom cases for the military and civilian use. Pexco makes plastic-coated fencing material. Berry Plastic makes a lot of containers. And there's a bunch more. VSS and Beat are machining companies. You can see Beat makes spray nozzles of all different kinds. And those can be fire hoses, big nozzles that clean out oil tanks, and they can be really tiny nozzles that cool off your computer, you know, in big computer warehouses that run your smartphone, or you know, spray nozzles that will spray coatings to make the coatings on your M&Ms or on your medications. They're used for hundreds of different purposes. At the bottom, you see National Nonwovens and Barnhart. Those are fabrics companies that make medical fabric and other kinds of fabric. Judd Wire makes wire assemblies for cars and for planes and other things. There's several wire companies in the valley. And the one cluster that we don't have on this screen, which is also pretty big around here, is food. We have two big food manufacturers. Light Life Food makes tofu and tempeh products. New England Natural Bakers makes granola products. And you have a lot of smaller companies that make kind of specialty food products here in the valley. So that's kind of a quick tour of different manufacturing clusters among those 200 plus companies. And so, you know, if you were looking at sort of entry-level jobs in manufacturing, on the left, you see here a list of job titles. And I recommend, you know, putting together that kind of thing, because if you're looking for a job or trying to learn more about jobs, it helps to know what they're called. It gives you more options when you're using Indeed or other job search engines to plug in different words and see what you get. At the bottom of this list, the yellow group there, as I said, from $13.50 to $17 an hour, those are entry-level machining and production kinds of jobs. Utility worker, materials handler, assembler, machine operator. Those are the kinds of titles you'll see there. At the top in the green band there, going from $15 to $20 an hour, those are the CNC positions that you can get if you do the second level training that we offer at GCC. And those, range, first shift might be $15 to $16 an hour, second shift, $17, $18 an hour, third shift, maybe $18 to $20 an hour. And a few go higher than that. But CNC operator is probably the most common title. Lathe and mill, water jets, die cutting, EDM, wire cutting, grinding, those are all different ways of cutting and shaping metal. And then as you gain skills and you can actually set up and operate your machine independently, you get to be what's called a setup operator, and you get a corresponding bump in wage for that skill level. As you progress and really become a skilled machinist, which might take you 5 to 10 years, your wages are going to keep rising with the skills you have. Unlike getting paid for a bachelor's or a master's or a PhD, in machining, you really get paid for what you know how to do. And in some companies, it's literally the case where you actually get a skills sign-off that might be worth 50 cents or $1 for each skill. And that's how you progress up the ladder in terms of making more money. It can be directly related to the skills you can perform. So looking now at training for how you get there. How am I doing on time there, Matt?
I would say excuse me, I'd say maybe another 3 to 5 minutes.
Okay, so I'll move quickly through this. So you can find training in a number of places. GCC works with us on the Manufacturing Skills Initiative, but you can also look at community colleges, adult evening courses, and even for-profit schools. GCC offers this 4-week foundational manufacturing, which is a very quick way to get right into manufacturing. You learn shop math, measurement, blueprint reading, OSHA safety, that kind of thing. And in 4 weeks, you can be ready to take an entry-level manufacturing job. If you want to go a step higher on the ladder, you do about a semester's worth of work, 12 weeks, and you can get to be a CNC operator. And that, as I said, gives you kind of a higher start and points you in the direction of a skilled trade in machining. This is what the tech school looks like today. It's a pretty modern machine shop with about $1 million worth of new equipment in it. That's where we teach people both manual machining and CNC machining using these Haas mill and lathe machines. This is kind of a picture of what a modern machine shop looks like. Many of them are pretty clean and bright. Not all of them, but that's where your research comes in. And I've put this link on the bottom. ONET Online is a website put together by the Department of Labor, the Federal Department of Labor. And it's a great research tool if you're looking up occupations, not just in manufacturing, but all across the board. It will tell you what the job requirements are, what kind of training you need, and what they pay. So worth checking out. Manufacturing is a physical job. So if you're looking, for those entry-level jobs, you got to be prepared for an active walking around job. And these are some of our graduates, and all of these companies are machine shops, have machine shops, or are machine shops. So there's quite a variety right here in Franklin and Hampshire counties. These are the contacts for the different options I just mentioned. If you are thinking about a 2-year or 4-year degree, again, going back to marshaling the resources, community colleges are a great way to start if you want a really affordable path into higher education. And you can earn credentials and certificates and degrees with 1-year programs, with 2-year programs, or 2-year transfer programs that will take you into a 4-year school. All of these colleges Greenfield, Quinsigamond, Springfield, and Berkshire in our Western Mass region have engineering programs. So if you're interested in engineering, worth checking out. Greenfield's got a great program that a lot of the students transfer to UMass and to other four-year engineering schools. Springfield Technical Community College actually has an amazing partnership with Northeastern University, where if you want, you can actually stay on the Stick campus even after you finish your 2 years and do the last 2 years of your Northeastern engineering degree right in Springfield, and do it at a fraction of the cost that you'd pay to go to Boston and earn the same degree on the Northeastern campus. So if you're looking for an affordable way to get an engineering degree, that's a worthwhile to check that out. At GCC, you can study robotics, CNC programming, lots of coursework that will take you upward toward those higher level desk jobs as a programmer, as a robotics technician, doing other kinds of advanced manufacturing. And you can do the two-year program if you're engineering bound. In terms of funding, again, if you're looking at credit courses and 2 or 4 year degrees, visit the admissions office and the financial aid office and learn about Pell Grants and federally subsidized student loans. There are also scholarships for engineering programs. The Society for Manufacturing Engineers has a scholarship program. And if you're interested in more of the non-credit quick trainings that get you right to work, of the ones that I described at GCC, there are lots of ways you can get funded to do that without putting any money out of pocket. Both federal and state job training funds. If you get a job with an employer, often they will pay your way. And GCC has a foundation that has some scholarship money. If you're a veteran or if you're disabled, there are other funding sources there. So there's a lot of different resources to take a look at. So if the manufacturing training or education is the right choice for you, here are a couple of next steps. If you, again, want the quick non-credit path, sign up for our monthly manufacturing information session and learn how to apply for those non-credit trainings, and just call the Career Center, and we do that once a month, every first Monday. You can listen to me for an hour talking about this kind of thing. I've given you a very quick and abbreviated version of that. And if you're interested in the credit side and a 2 or 4 year college degree, visit GCC or other college admissions and financial aid offices and develop your plan for college and credit-based training and how you're going to pay for it. And that's it. How'd I do? Am I over?
An assembly, and you'll get to hear from people who work here in their own words. And what happened? I just got out of the meeting.
Go to Zoom on the bottom. Oh. Yeah, you have to turn on screen share.
So
just click OK, share. There we go.
All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So here you'll kind of just get to hear from our employees in their own words about their experience working here and kind of what makes it unique.
Keep turning volume. 480. Should be fine.
the people. I like my bosses. I like the people I work with. I've been here 32 years this year. So I guess I still like it, and I like the kind of freedom that we have, but you know, still the responsibility and the balance of both.
For me, it's constant learning process, and I really like this because I'm never getting bored.
Having a kind of self-maintaining staff has really been great. Everybody is kind of like going for the same thing. You know, some places, some people are just there for a paycheck, and I think here everybody's working to make things better, which is something you don't always find.
Here, everybody kind of has to work together, and it's nice to actually have that, because if you're having a bad day, you can kind of lean on someone else to help you out through the day.
Like we're like a little family, and we're growing together.
It was very nice place to work. Yeah, it's like nice people. That's what we are doing. It's like really interesting. Almost every day something new.
This is one of the best jobs that I've ever had, because the people are great and your bosses are, you know, really good, and you don't find that a lot.
I really sincerely like the people I work for. I really like Neil and Rafael personally, and then also professionally. They give all of us the freedom and sort of the autonomy to make decisions that are in the best interest of the company.
Oh, I mean, one of my favorite things about this company is not just like the people that we work with every day, but how involved ownership is with the company.
I like this place because ownership empowers you to do things, but they don't just tell you you're empowered. They actually step out of the way and allow you to take control.
I also like to find out like what the product we're doing is for, because I feel like I'm part of something big, like we're really changing world in here.
You get exposed to things, and you get exposed to people that would blow your mind. You can't believe you're working on something that is so important.
Okay.
All right, so yeah.
That's just a little bit about the company. Unfortunately, that video was shot before I was here, so I was not in it. But you want to pull up the PowerPoint?
Yeah, so and it's kind of, in that video you got to see a little bit of kind of the process, and you got to see some of the machines running, the RPS soldering. You could see some of the scope work that people were doing in inspection. And, we've got a little PowerPoint as well that we can talk through and share a little bit more about what it's like to kind of work here daily. Just get the windows just a little bit. Thanks, Jack. All right, so this is kind of just welcome to Worthington Assembly. As you saw in the video, we're a pretty unconventional organization. We're unconventional in a few ways, and one of the things that we want to kind of touch on in this is how we're different from a lot of companies. I think that what makes us unique and why we're unconventional is kind of one of the great strengths of our organization. Kind of just a little bit of an introduction about what I do. And I joined the team here in 2015. I started out in our shipping and receiving department and got trained there. Did some setup on our surface mount line, and then kind of moved into the office and started doing part purchasing, working with customer data, getting a little bit more involved in kind of what I do today, which is project management. That involves kind of documenting and getting all of the process and assembly documentation and packages loaded into our system, so that the people who are on the floor and actually building things have everything that they need in terms of information, specifications and standards that the customer requires. I do quoting make sure that pricing for jobs is profitable, make sure that it's correct. Purchasing, which is something that we're training other people to do right now as well as we grow. Order and kind of approve and do some design on stencil tooling. So stencil tooling is a critical part of our process. So kind of as was mentioned in the prior presentation, if you enjoy math, if you enjoy kind of looking at geometry, it's kind of fun. I think it's a fun exercise. And just most importantly, to service our customers, internal and external. So to take care of my customers here are everyone on that floor. It's my job to make sure that they have what they need in terms of information and also material, and to service our external customers and make sure that they're receiving product that's up to their expectations.
Okay. So Brett has been here since 2015. And compared to him, I'm a relatively new hire. Been here a little over a year. I joined in 2019. I think less than a year after I graduated from Northampton High. So I was in a very similar position to you guys, except then our career outreach program is still developing quite a bit. So I didn't have these sort of job fairs the same way that you guys do. So I think it's an amazing opportunity that that you guys have this set up. I actually had Meisha as my internship coordinator when I was at NHS as well. So I worked with her there, and I've done an internship here. Had an intern from Northampton High. Don't know if you know him, Gareth Addis, but he did an internship with us last month. And so I helped show him a lot about what we do, and he was able to help out with that sort of thing. And if you guys have any interest like that as well, if you decide you do later on throughout our presentation, you can always reach out to us. We definitely are looking for outreach and new people. When I graduated high school, I did not want to go to college right off the bat because I wasn't completely sure about what I wanted to do. There's a lot of career options, and I didn't want to invest that much money in something that I was unsure of, which is a lot what the last presentation was about, that there's a lot more career options than just going to college and then figuring it out after. So I joined Worthington, and very similar to Brett, I started out in one of the basic operating positions where I would individually load parts and do very simple stuff, assemble very simple devices. And then I was able to work my way up by demonstrating that I was learning these skills and that I could understand things and that I could find room for improvement. And I got trained in a few other things, inspection machines to make sure our product is up to standard and it looked good. And then I moved up to running machines, actually operating them, controlling some of our large $300,000 machines that are very integral to our process. From there, I started working on programming those machines, writing the programs to tell them where to put parts, that sort of thing. We'll give a breakdown of the process after this slide. We'll sort of show you, because it's a complicated process. It's very unique. And then from there, I started looking for areas that we could improve in, speed up efficiency, cut down on manual labor, like moving files over and over and over, or doing the same commands on the computer. And I started with some software development and automation. I taught myself C#, a programming language. I took a couple introductory programming classes at Northampton High, and the rest I'm self-taught. So I've been writing a lot of programs for us, and yeah, software development. I handle a lot of our IT stuff, building computers, building workstations, that sort of thing when we need some for new people. Troubleshooting when things go wrong. And yeah, that's what I do. I do a wide variety of stuff. And if anybody needs help out in something that I know how to do, I will pull myself away and help out so that way our machines stay up and operational. Let's see.
Oh yeah, I think it skipped one.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, just a quick overview of who we are. So Worthington was formed in 1974 by a gentleman named Tom Quinn. And then Neil and Rafal, who you saw in the video, bought the company in 2008. At that time, it was in Worthington. And in 2009, we moved to our current location, which is a little bit more accessible. There's still lots of trees, but a few less. We're in South Deerfield now. And
right off the highway.
yeah, right off the highway. So easily accessible. And you know, our team, our whole team here is great. A lot of unique people. Everyone's got a skill set.
We make what we do. We build circuit boards essentially. Customers submit designs for us, and then we physically put the parts to meet their electrical specifications, and then we make sure those products are built how they want them to, and then we ship them to the customer.
Yeah.
We have an example board right here.
Yeah, we've got some, just to kind of show you a little bit about of like what our finished products look like. For an example, you know, circuit boards. We've got lots of very, very small components, surface mount components that are mounted. You know, large connectors. Basically, anything that works in our world of IoT and interconnected devices, and you know, almost everything today that if it plugs into a wall, there's a circuit board behind it on the other side of that plug, controlling it. And so this is what we do. This is what we build here, and we can kind of build some of the most complicated parts and assemblies in the world right here in South Deerfield.
A lot of the stuff that we make is for a huge variety of different things. I'll give you a few examples. We build circuit boards that, I'm not joking, go into a pizza making robot. Like it takes the dough, it cooks it, it puts the cheese and the sauce on it, and we build circuit boards for that, which is kind of bizarre to think about.
Yeah.
You have any other examples?
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to them in the
Oh, yeah, next slide. Basically, the breakdown of Worthington is that we have three fundamental internal businesses. One of our biggest customers is Circuit Hub, and we work very, very closely with them. More than half of our orders come from them. And it's a new form of online ordering for circuit boards where customers can upload designs onto the internet, and a lot of their software will take those designs and give us the files that we need to be able to start assembly on those boards. It's a very cool platform. And then Brett works more on the Worthington side.
Yeah, so yeah, just a little bit about Circuit Hub. As long as you're, anyone, I don't know if there's anyone here that's involved in electrical engineering, but KiCad, Eagle, or Altium are all supported, and it kind of gives instant live quotes. We get the orders and we execute on them. We also have kind of our Worthington Direct business, which is people who come that maybe that platform doesn't work with them, or they want to work with, get on the phone with someone and kind of work more directly with us. It's kind of our short run. We do prototyping, kind of order to order, and then we have our long-term OEM customers. That's a lot more kind of MRP, annual planning, working with forecasts, really working with their buying department and their engineering department to determine what they need, materials that might be at risk, securing their supply chain, working with vendors to bond and inventory material, either here or at our vendors for them. A lot more planning than just short run kind of transactional orders. So we handle all three of those, and they're kind of distinct, but the very cool thing about it is that internally here, all of these different kind of businesses, what we say are three different businesses, they all run on the same lines. They all run next to each other. The operators are all, the people who are operating those machines are involved in each of those and everything that we build. It's a little bit different on the front end, but in terms of how everything flows, it's exactly the same.
Okay. So the breakdown of the actual process itself, I know you've probably heard of a lot of words that you're not familiar with already. Essentially, it starts with purchasing, which is a lot of what Brett does. And we also have a few new hires that do a lot of this because we're getting kind of swamped because the business is growing so fast. Essentially buying parts for the circuit boards. And our jobs is to put the parts on the circuit boards. So first we need to go out, actually buy them, figure out what vendor we're going to buy them from. So like from a lot of different vendors like DigiKey or Mauser, wherever the price is best, wherever the availability is best, and that's really up to them. So a very integral role. Then when the parts actually arrive to us, they need to be put to the correct job because each job will use different types of parts. So we need to make sure that that job has all the parts it needs before we start to assemble. So that's our kitting department. Their job is to get everything ready. And then we have a programming department where we tell the machines what parts it needs and where to place them onto the board, which is a lot of what I do.
It's the most fun thing here is programming those machines.
Yes. Then it actually moves into assembling the boards themselves, which we shorten to SMT, which stands for surface mount, which is just one of the processes the parts are being placed into the board. And the way that that's done is just the bare circuit board itself with no parts on it. We get shipped to us from China, and we need to print liquid solder paste onto that. I don't know if you've ever seen anybody use a soldering iron. It's not in liquid form there. It's a solid metal, but the solder paste is made up of tiny little balls of that solid metal. And when you heat it up, it melts and creates a strong joint or bond that can transfer electricity. So it's putting that paste where we need to through a lot of printing. And then from there, it gets loaded onto the machines. And the machines, they have little nozzles that go down, pick up a part and place it very precisely, very fast, exactly where they need to go. And so programming tells the machine what parts it needs and where to place them on the board. And then the machines actually do it. Operators run those machines. They troubleshoot when things go wrong. It's a very important job because a lot of the time things will go wrong. And they need to know how to fix that and have the skill set to fix that. From there, the product is put through an oven to melt all of the solder and create solid connections. And then the product is, I'd say 90% of the way there physically, but it still needs to be inspected to make sure there's no defects, like we're not missing any parts anywhere or they're not put on incorrectly, because the machines can make mistakes and people can also make mistakes. So they're put through some automated inspection devices. We actually have some pictures. Let me go to, this is one of, these are some pictures of the large placing machines, the SMT machines.
Yeah, so like in the top left up here, this is our SMT line. And you can see that, you know, there's computers everywhere. It's very bright in here. It's not dark. I think a lot of people, when they think about manufacturing, think of a dark kind of warehouse. And, you know, our work environment is not a dark warehouse. We have windows, it's bright. You can see that there's kind of these two long machines that are in line and kind of loaded into these machines in this area are some magazines. So when we talk about feeder loading and loading parts, they're loaded into there. This is kind of that printing process that Jack mentioned. Up here, this is Chris, he's loading a board into our printer. So that's where the stencils that we'll order, which are kind of these thin metal sheets with apertures that are very precision cut based on very specific kind of geometries that are dependent on the type of part, get loaded into that. And well, that's what we use to print our solder paste. And after the parts are all placed, this is our reflow oven. That's kind of what Jack was talking about. That's what actually reflows that solder paste, turns it liquidous and forms a bond between the leads of the part and those pads. And then down on the lower corner, that's that's kind of our brand new pick and place machine. And like Jack said, you know, these place very, very small parts at just incredible rates of speed. So we can place parts that are down to, you know, less than 0.5 millimeter square. So 0.3 millimeters by 0.5 millimeters is kind of common for us, with multiple leads on the bottom of them. And we can do that at you know, speeds greater than 5,000 placements an hour.
I skipped a couple slides because we already sort of went over them a little bit. I forgot. But this is what, a lot of what I do. This is sort of the interfaces that I'm working with on the computer itself. This is a breakdown of what a circuit board looks like from just the files itself before we actually receive the boards or anything like that. If you look in the bottom left, that's a screenshot of Gerber files, which are the files that contain all the copper on the inside of the board and what the bare board itself looks like. In the top right is a program that I've written in a program called My Center, telling our assembly machines where those parts are and what they need to look like and where they should be placed. And then there's just some examples of files that we use that contain coordinates and part numbers and that sort of thing. That's just what I work with. Then we have our inspection machines, which after the boards are essentially finished, they need to be inspected for defects. So we don't ship out product that doesn't work because that's never good and customers would not be happy then. What these do is they take really, really high resolution pictures of these boards and they compare them and use AI and that sort of thing to other boards to figure out what the part should look like when it's placed correctly. And if it doesn't fit within those parameters, it'll throw an error and it'll tell you to look more in detail like that. And people will review those and fix the problems with the boards so we can actually ship them out. So we don't have any errors.
Yeah, this is our through hole, and hand soldering is also kind of included in that, but these are our through hole selective soldering machines. They're essentially like a CNC arm that's controlling a pump that is pumping out liquidus molten solder. And this is what solders parts that cannot be mounted on the surface of a board. So parts, for example, that kind of have like a pin that needs to fit through a hole, and it forms a much stronger mechanical bond than simply surface mount components do. So anything that has a human interface, anything that someone's going to be yanking and pulling on, interconnects, plugs, switches, things that people will handle a lot, will typically get kind of soldered in these workstations. And here you can see, both this is pictures of Bob and Patrick, and their control, and you can see on the screen they've written a program that is kind of telling this machine the path that it needs to run when it's soldering these parts, and they're actually loading boards on and assembling boards there as well.
Then it moves on to final quality inspection. So after it goes through the automated inspection and things are marked for review, these very skilled inspectors will look at those issues that the machine brought up and decide whether they're issues that can pass and if the part is fine, or if there are issues that need to be reworked, if they need to change the orientation or swap it out for a different part, or if there's a missing part, then they need to put a part at that spot so the board will function properly. And so they inspect most of the day. They look very closely at the boards and they review sort of the programs from the automated inspection machines.
Yeah, a lot of scope work. These they're highly trained to know what's acceptable. We when we take orders, we have specifications as far as inspection standard. So these inspectors are familiar with IPC and J standard, and they know what, depending on whether something is class 2 or class 3, there are certain characteristics that they need to pay attention to. So they've been trained to kind of recognize that.
Then boards move on to shipping, where we actually need to ship them out to customers, because we have customers all over the world, all over the US, and they need to get product. So shipping packages that up. They're also very close with the kitting department. They're trained to do both essentially. And so they'll ship out that product with UPS, FedEx, DHL to get that product to customers.
Yeah, so a little bit about kind of the differences between Worthington Assembly and working here and some other manufacturing companies that might be out there is that we're extremely decentralized. We don't have supervisors here that are constantly walking the floor, explaining to people what they will do next and how they'll do it and when they'll do it. It's kind of our job in the front office to give the people on the floor all the information that they need, and then empower them to just make decisions. And almost 100% of the time, those decisions are the right decisions. No one's looking over people's shoulders here. If you're here and you're part of our team, they're really trusted to know what they need to do. So we don't have a hierarchical management structure. It's not as though there's anyone kind of above anyone here. There are certainly people who have areas of expertise that are looked to as leaders for guidance.
Everyone's opinion matters.
Yeah,
and
everyone's opinion matters.
If you have an idea and it seems like a good idea, nobody's going to tell you, no, we can't try this out because you don't know what you're talking about. Because if it's a good idea, and even if you've been here for 2 months or something, if it's a good idea, everybody will listen to you and we'll try to improve the process. It's kind of crazy. I really love how we are structured because I'm straight out of high school. I have no experience after that. I have no experience in this field. I got here a little over a year ago, and I was able to actually have a lot of input into the organization and be able to demonstrate that I understand how things work and be able to make improvements where I could see that there could be improvements. And it's really crazy that there's opportunities like this. I never knew anything like this existed. I stumbled across Worthington Assembly, and I'm very happy that I came here.
Yeah, we also do something here that's probably not super common in companies like this, which is we do a 360 feedback review. So if you in high school, I don't know if you've ever kind of reviewed your teachers or done self-evaluations for your work. We do that here as well. So every couple of weeks, someone here kind of either volunteers or is chosen. So I've gone through this. Jack went through it recently. And then everyone in the organization kind of gives feedback on that person, on their adherence to kind of our core values and our, what makes a successful team member here. And then they're met with that person and it's kind of gone over, and it's an opportunity to kind of give good critical feedback to kind of our peers, and also to kind of give them credit for things that they're doing really well. To take it and help improve yourself, help improve the team. So we're very, very at Worthington, we're very invested in our company culture.
Okay. So this is a lot of what we were talking about, our core values and successful habits. So basically, as long as you demonstrate these and you're a smart person, you can definitely make it here. That's really what we hire and fire by, is if you share these core values, then we want you at Worthington. Essentially humility, not being arrogant, stuck up, not taking criticism or that sort of thing, being open to change, and yeah, working well with other people.
Yeah, honesty, just being honest, having common sense. Grit is very important. I think that's kind of something in any manufacturing job. Repeatability, kind of a key to manufacturing successfully is to have a repeatable process that you can rely on. Your quality lies in repeatability. So, being able to do that, have that grit to do that, whether you're sitting in front of a computer all day doing repeatable tasks, or in front of a microscope, kind of inspecting boards. It takes a bit of focus, and it definitely takes grit, eagerness to learn.
Yeah, eagerness to learn
and have fun.
If you want to, if you actually are trying to learn more about the field and that sort of thing, and not just being stagnant of knowing one job and doing that thing over and over and over. That's amazing, because we like to have people that know how to do a bunch of other things. So that way, if somebody's sick, somebody can fill in for them and do their job. And it's great to have that eagerness to learn. And again, have fun. We always like to joke around. We try to keep a good balance between talking about work and talking about other things. And it's a really fun place to work. I love it here. Hiring is team driven. So essentially we hire someone for like a 3-day trial period where they'll come in as an interview. They'll work in a job, they'll get trained for 3 days, and we'll see how they pick up those sort of tasks and how they demonstrate those core values to see if they're the type of person we'd want on our team. And then we offer them a 30-day working interview where you're basically hired, but there's a 30-day trial period to see if you still demonstrate those values and you still thrive in this sort of environment. And then after that, you're a full-time employee. It's a really cool process where employees and the people who are actually working with that person, rather than just upper management, has input into that, whether they'd be a good fit. Again, core values. Critical skills to have. It definitely helps to be tech savvy, understanding that sort of thing, because it's a very tech oriented field. Competency on a computer, being able to navigate your way around Windows, that sort of thing. Google, a lot of our schedule is based on a Google Sheet. So if you have worked with those before, that's very beneficial. Microsoft Excel, a lot of our purchasing stuff is there. A lot of our parts.
XY is all done in Excel.
Right. And our ability to learn with others. So again, that drive to learn and understand more. Problem solving, that's a huge one, especially for like machine operators or something like that. Not everything's going to go perfect from programming. Things will go wrong. The machine might not want to place a part. You have to take your skill set and take that grit and be able to put yourself and try to solve that problem by yourself. That's a very important one. And critical thinking skills, be able to evaluate like when things can be improved, and common sense. Education. I think I can speak on this one. I had no prior education other than high school. I think I demonstrated our core values. I showed that I was willing to learn. I had a good drive, and I got the job. Education does not play. It plays a little. It really doesn't play a role for entry-level jobs here. Maybe if we were hiring for a very specific job, degrees would definitely be a benefit. But by no means do you have to have a degree to work at Worthington at all. It's about your ability to learn on the job. All of our knowledge comes from on-job training, essentially.
Yeah, we do a lot of internal training. There's a lot of opportunities. Cross-training is kind of huge here. So it's very common for someone to get pulled out of the kitting department and go to support our SMT line, load feeders, load magazines. It's very common for someone in inspection to maybe go over to fabrication if there's something needed. If my workload is light, I can go load feeders. I was trained in my center to program the machines a couple of years ago, and so I'm able to do that, although I'm a bit rusty at this point. But doing new test introduction, things like that. So, you know, some of our other teammates here that do purchasing on the circuit hub side, the same thing. They know how to go and help the kitting department out, help the surface mount team out. We have people, for example, someone from shipping and receiving right now is being trained in hand soldering and is kind of doing a little bit of inspection. So, you know, having that ability to go and learn different disciplines, but also just kind of, it's not as though these people were approached and said, hey, you know, we need help. We're going to teach you this. Most of the time it's self-driven. People who, approach someone else and say, I'd really like to learn your job. I want to learn what you're doing.
That's what I did for a lot of the time. I could have just sat and done the same assembly over and over for this whole year, but I went and I got trained in other things that I was interested in, that was more advanced, and I was able to work my way up. And if you have that drive to learn, you'll succeed here at the end of the day. Pay?
Yeah, so as far as pay goes, it's pretty broad. There's a broad range of pay. It's, you know, one of the things that Neil and Reflow stress and the company stresses that they pay high performing employees as much as they can afford. You know, it was kind of mentioned in the prior presentation as well. Here, there's quite a bit of opportunity for overtime, so that affects the range of pay. Some people work a lot of overtime. I tend to take overtime quite a bit, and others are, you know, will take flex days off. So some people will almost never work any overtime, and they'll take every Friday off if they're able to. So that affects kind of the pay range. Ownership works with everyone here, kind of based on their individual skill set and the value that they bring. Something that is kind of important here is that everyone's paid a living wage, even the people who you know, are doing kind of lower level work and the lowest paid people. No one here is making a minimum wage. So it's fairly broad.
Also benefits.
Yeah, the benefits.
We provide amazing benefits. I have a 401k. I'm 19 right now, and I've been contributing to it quite a bit, which is
company. You know, the company matches.
crazy.
There's a company match. I'm not sure how common that is, but here we have company match.
Health insurance.
Health insurance. You know, generous PTO policy. So there's all. I think that, you know, as long as people have those values that we kind of instill and are very serious about the culture that we've all collectively helped build. There's definitely a lot of upside to a manufacturing career.
Okay, so I guess we're going to be open to the question parts afterwards.